The indie RPG scene, it's an ocean. No, actually, scratch that. It's a hurricane. A constant churning storm of new releases, Steam Next Fest, online showcases, each one dropping dozens and sometimes hundreds of demos, basically right into our digital footsteps. And look, I'm a glutton for this stuff. It is, without a doubt, a fantastic problem to have. We are honestly spoiled for choice because it's still a problem. It's the paradox of choice, that beautiful, maddening, soul-crushing phenomenon where too many options leave you completely paralyzed. So who among us hasn't felt it? That familiar demo fatigue. You spend an hour downloading a game, or even shorter if you have good internet, only to find yourself scrolling through the Steam library again asking, is this the one? Is this the hidden gem that's going to justify all this, the storage space that I'm going to use for this? You play a few minutes of something promising, then you get distracted. And a week later, it's just another forgotten icon sitting on your desktop. It's the digital equivalent of a cluttered desk, and it's a feeling I've become all too familiar with because I always feel like I'm cluttered. I feel like there's so much going on, and sometimes it can just even lead to brain fatigue. But with that being said, this is where I decide to step in. For the past few weeks, I've pondered just an idea of just covering some of the current indie RPGs that I could come across on Steam. Kind of just an indie RPG like Steam dumpster dives essentially. And I have scavenged through Steam's list, finding some new demos, fueled by a truly questionable amount of caffeine and a genuine, almost obsessive desire to just find the next big thing, especially as we're post a lot of showcases. Steam Next Fest is already gone, so there's a lot of demos that I cannot retouch back on. So I went even further on Steam and I was just like, let's find some demos that will fit the criteria of what I'm looking for. And some of them may be, a buggy mess and sometimes could be forgettable. Some are just overall amazing hidden gems that not too many people will find. So overall, from action-packed roguelikes to rich psychological horror adventures that'll stick with you for weeks, this list has something for every kind of RPG fan out there. Now remember, and this is a disclaimer for this video, these are just demos. They are early drafts essentially. A lot of the complaints and issues I'll be raising can and almost certainly will be fixed way before their 1.0 release. With that being said, I want to hop into the world of RPGs, so grab a drink, get comfy, and let's dive into the Steam demo library, because this is going to be part 1 or volume 1 of the indie RPG demo showcases that I want to run for the channel. So let's hop right into it. So let's begin our journey with something that understands the value of a slow, deliberate pace. This is Nezori, a game whose strongest asset right out the gate is its wonderfully charming and surprisingly heartfelt storytelling. Laid out in a beautiful visual novel format, the game introduces us to the Nezori, an adorable race of fox-like waifus, and their rivals, the territorial wolf waifu clan, the Sothians. But what's so brilliant here isn't the grand fantasy setup, it's the premise. Our protagonist, a young Nezori swordswoman named Atsuko, isn't on some world-saving quest. No, she has one singular desire, which is her single-minded focus is simply to bathe in a legendary hot spring. Now, what draws upon that complication, because it sounds very simple up front, is that this specific legendary hot spring is currently sitting deep within the Sothian territory, and they are, shall we say, less than thrilled about some fox girl trespassing. It's this simple, relatable goal that makes the world feel so lived in and real. And when I was first started playing, I realized, man, this individual story is very interesting, it is, to say the least, right? So my problem that I had was that is such a very simple goal to have, and it's one of those things of she wants to bring peace between both clans, and this hot spring is one way of doing it. For ages now, they've been at odds with each other, almost at war with each other, almost hating each other. but Atsuko's simple desire could potentially make new friends and new promises, and it starts with the hot spring. By having both clans be able to utilize the hot spring for both of their warriors, this can allow some form of peace between the rivaling clans. Now, the core of the gameplay is its dialogue. The character arc is fantastic. The 2D sprites are not static images, they are highly expressive in changing poses and emotions during conversations, which injects a ton of personality into every scene. It's a masterclass in making a visual novel feel alive. You're rewarded for being patient, for really engaging with the world, because that is one thing that this game highly excels at, is its world building. And you can see it right off the jump, just right from the little given point early on in the game, as you're moving around the world with Atsuko and talking to the different people of your clan, and just understanding the current situation around the world, who's important. Now, I do remember one specific moment where I had to speak to an NPC twice to unlock a side quest. A little design choice that pushes you to slow down and really inhabit the world instead of rushing to the next waypoint, because these text dialogues are long. They're very long, and you will spend plenty amount of time talking to NPCs. But this is where, like I said, that world building comes in, because you actually start just learn a little bit more about each of the characters. Now, where the visual novel aspect is so meticulously crafted, the combat, it ain't really, it feels like it's an afterthought, I would say. Nezori bills itself as an action RPG, but this is where the demo feels most like an early unpolished draft. The hack and slash combat is what I would describe as very floaty in a sense. There's a severe lack of impact. It's like swinging a pool noodle at an enemy. You see the hit connect, but there's no satisfying like thwack or sense of weight to it. And I've played a lot of action RPGs in my life, and I've covered and reviewed a lot of action RPGs on this channel, and there's always that one thing, that satisfying audible sound that you always feel, even when you have the controller in hand, or even when you can just feel the impact just from the overall hearing the audio cues of your sounds. It's like this game is really missing that. On top of that, my other argument with this game is the combat encounters and the overworld. So when you're playing with Atsuko, when you're done with the visual novels, a given point where you must actually go out into the world and go seek out this legendary hot spring. Now, when you get to the overall overworld, you are met with whatever side quest you picked up from the overall NPCs that you met along the way, but now you're met with this overworld, and you can travel this overworld. In my opinion, this felt like a big map, and it's okay. The problem about the combat side of this is that combat encounters in the overworld are surprisingly few and far between. And when they do happen, they're basically like jarring ambushes with high damage, very tanky enemies that feel more unfair than challenging. I've played Dark Souls, I've played a lot of Souls-like, but I've never seen a character at level 1 struggling with other level 1 enemies. And that's the problem about that RPG aspect that I have. Like, there has to be a pacing, and essentially the pacing of this game is like, with how the combat is, it's hard to really move forward with the fights, because it's a slow leveling curve, right? Limited maneuverability in a fight. The combat system feels like it needs a significant rework to match the narrative's quality. And like I said, when you're coming across different enemies, there are groups of them. They will gank you essentially. And the problem about that, and it lies essentially with the combat in itself, because you got to think, there's 5 or so enemies, is 3 to 5 enemies per group that I've seen, and they can hit you with multiple different attacks. They deal crazy amounts of damage, and I'm just like, I am still at level 1. Even fighting the first 3 enemies is just like, these guys hit hard, and you don't hit hard at all, even as you continue to gain XP, which even the XP amount that you receive is also pretty lackluster. So there's a lot about this game where, like, the combat side of things, where it really needs work, and it was hard to actually go through. I had to push myself, and that's where, if I need to push myself in order to play the game, that basically leaves me, I feel like I shouldn't be playing. It makes me want to sit it down and not think about the game no more. But I put this game on this list because it was something I came across. It's a brand new demo, and overall the visual novel aspect of this game is a heavy hitter. I really enjoyed the understanding the lore and the world of the Sothians and the overall Nezori clan. So like it really hits home for the narrative side of things, but it needs a rework for the combat system. But for fans of cozy, heartfelt stories and beautiful art, the visual novel aspect is undoubtedly the strongest part of this demo, and it has potential to be a truly heartwarming adventure. It has potential to improve the combat. I do not know when the game fully releases. I'll probably link it here when it does as I'm recording this, but they have time to make sure that this game is in some form of tip-top shape by the time of 1.0 release. From a serene, story-driven journey to a pure adrenaline rush, let's shift gears completely, right? If you're looking for a high-octane 1 to 4 player co-op action roguelike, then I need you to get ready, because I found this one as well on my list, and it's called God Breakers. In this game, there is no question about the main focus. Combat is king. From the moment you drop into the run, you're met with like slick fluid combos, an incredibly responsive dash that lets you weave through attacks with precision, and just this killer central mechanic where you can absorb enemy abilities, turn their own power against them. It's not just fast, it's a symphony of controlled chaos. Your journey begins in the main hub, a staging area where you can prepare for your assault. Now here's where it gets kind of cool, because you can customize your Godbreaker with cosmetic items, but more importantly, you can change your overall archetype. Now archetypes in this game is essentially the class system. Now currently right now, the demo has only offered 2 to start, so you get to play as a fast, nimble spear wielder, and you can play as a heavy hitting warrior who just literally just destroys anybody with a massive pillar. Now once you're kitted out, you head out on your run, and essentially this run you can play through one world, which there are creatures that inhabit these worlds, and as you defeat these creatures you gain fragments. These fragments is what allows you to apply the powerful stat buffs and new passive abilities, really shaping your build on the fly essentially. Now this is where that roguelike functionality come from, improving yourself every run. Now if you want to improve it, you have to just be able to kill the enemies who grab the fragments, and then boom, you're fine, you're good to go. Now I did have one run where I did focus entirely on buffing my overall how much damage I can stack, because I was using my spear build, so I wanted to boost my maneuverability speed, enhance my dodges, stuff like that. I was trying to pick out stuff overall, and essentially I wanted to be as fast as I possibly can. Then my next run, I basically just went all tanky abilities. I got the Peeler smashing juggernaut of a build, and all the damage I was dealing like decay and fire, and it was just overall there is build potential. And that's what, when it comes to roguelikes, that's what matters the most. You have to have good build potential and good replayability, because as you die in these games, you have to keep in mind that you won't get the same build every time, especially for some of you who are new to roguelikes. This is what makes something like this fun. And then not to mention, it is 1 to 4 player co-op, so you and your buddies just going through having crazy builds as you take on all the different gods in this game. And keep in mind, there's a lot of replayability, and this is just the demo. Now visually though, what really sunk me into this game is the world's looks are amazing. The game uses this vibrant 3D cartoonish art style that makes the alien environments and enemy designs pop with color and overall personality. The demo's main run culminates in a climactic showdown against the god a massive boss who attacks are perfectly telegraphed, encouraging you to learn his patterns. But it is a true test of skill, and once you fully understand his patterns, it becomes quite simple and easy. And I feel like as you go on with the other gods, they would become increasingly harder and harder. It took me only 2 tries to actually defeat and the first try was just me understanding and learning. I actually almost beat him using my spear build, but then I said, you know what? I'm tired. I ain't trying to lose no more. Let me go grab the pillar. I'm gonna see what this heavy tanky damage. So I went through the entire run, got back to and man, it's almost like I had ultra instinct. I was able to understand where at, deal the amount of damage I need, and boom, I end up winning. And the thing about this game is that it has this addictive core loop, deep build potential, and just this exhilarating co-op action. Godbreaker promises a full game of breaking gods across multiple worlds, and it's the demo that proves the foundation is already incredibly strong. And that's one thing about these demos, is like this right here, they have a lot of confidence in this game that I'm pretty sure they are ready for release at any time soon. And I have not experienced not a single problem in the demo. There are, of course, a lot of things that are locked behind the demo that I would love to check out, but we gotta wait till 1.0 release. Playing this demo, I had fun. I did not want to put it down, and just trying out the different builds and seeing how the game stacks up. It's great. This is definitely a good multiplayer roguelike for anybody who just wants to sit down, hang out with the boys, hang out in Discord, and just check these games out. You know, bring your friends and just go on multiple runs. That's honestly, we need a lot more multiplayer stuff that is just fun, right? These are just fun. So let's stay in the roguelike genre, but let's go with a different spin on it. So if you're a fan of the fast-paced, narrative-driven action of Hades, which is a great game, by the way, if you haven't played it, go play it, and you also love the screen-filling chaos of Vampire Survivors, another great game that drew big headlines, you absolutely need to check out Ember and Blade, because I feel like Ember and Blade is the perfect child between both of these styles of play. The demo throws you into the first level of the game, and right away, the main character's high energy voice acting pulls you into the story. I love the way that I love his entire personality. I love the way he's very witty and fun, and just overall fun to listen to, you know? Especially I'm going to be listening to you throughout the whole game. He's fun. The game smartly combines two genres into something new. It plays like a survivor-like, but one that's far more involved and hands-on. You play as a character by the name of Fenrix, who can automatically shoot his bow, so it's very similar to Survivors Like. Most Survivors Like, you really just move around, and whatever your spells build over time, they would do that damage for you. So he can automatically shoot his bow, so you don't have to do anything. The only thing you have to worry about is actually doing your skills and your main attacks. And that right there is how you get put into the thick of the action. You walk up to the enemies, you smack them with the main weapon, and then of course, you're not just a passive ship navigating a sea of enemies. You're basically an active participant in the carnage, and it's a brilliant fusion of gameplay loops. As you survive upon wave and wave of demons and push forward, you're constantly rewarded with a familiar but satisfying system of boons. Now this is where it starts to remind me a little bit of Hades, the way its narrative was done, because the gods were helping Hades leave from the underworld, and they were presented in a very similar way, the same way it is in Ember and Blade. You'll be offered passive enhancements, you can do raw stat bonuses, and powerful new spells from the quirky powerful angels who lend you their aid. This creates that classic roguelike feeling as starting weak, but evolving into some unstoppable god of destruction by the end of your run. And that's a perfect power fantasy for overall progression. The entire package is wrapped in a stunning presentation. The visual design of the world is gorgeous from the very jump, has bold colors, spectacular effects that make every battle a visual treat. And what's also pretty cool too, I love how the cutscenes play out in a detailed visual novel style, and the excellent voice acting gives every character a ton of personality. This is especially true for characters like the sorceress Aurelia or the angel Celaphil, who have both a great design and just captivating voices that makes you want to learn more about their characters. It's clear from this demo that Ember and Blade is a game being built with a ton of style and overall confidence. It shows off a slick presentation, engaging hybrid combat, and a compelling loop of getting stronger with the help of the gods. It's definitely one to watch closely, and I can't wait to see what more the game has to offer once the game fully has its release. Now, for all you fans of classic beat 'em ups, here's a co-op side scroll that will hit you with a massive, glorious wave of nostalgia. If it doesn't hit you with nostalgia, because it definitely hit me, remind me when I was, just a kid on the arcade machines, man. This is Absolum, and the second you hop into its hand-drawn world, it feels like a perfect modern evolution of arcade classics like Streets of Rage or Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles: Turtles in Time. This game was overall of Streets of Rage 4 was used as the inspiration to be able to make Absolum. This game is a masterclass in the genre. You could play with a friend in online co-op, or you can actually have a pretty decent, competent AI partner take over the second character if you're playing solo. But where this game truly shines is the combat. It's simple to pick up, incredibly fun, and just overall satisfying. You have your standard attacks, your skills, and your spell buttons, but the real magic is in the juggling system. You can launch enemies into the air, bounce them off walls, and just slam them back down to the ground to just continue your combos, leading to some truly styling and devastating takedowns. Layered on top of this excellent beat 'em up action is a robust roguelike progression system. As you clear rooms, you will be able to bind these things called relics that just grant you random passives and powerful bonuses, making every run feel unique. But the most brilliant innovation here is the game's meta progression. When you eventually die, you're sent back to your home base where you can spend any of the resources that you obtained to just permanently upgrade your character. But more than that, on your next run, the world itself will have changed based on your previous actions. For example, during my run, a bridge that was once out and destroyed might now be repaired because you cleared out a specific quest area on a prior attempt. This makes failure feel less like a reset and more like part of the world's ongoing story, since in this game's lore, you physically cannot die because of the mother or this goddess being that controls like your livelihood, this pact you've made with her. And essentially it's not like you're resetting the world, it's just more like you're just being brought back to a life essentially. So everything is still going on, the world is still being seen, and with these new resets as you go on these new runs, the world will change as you go. So you won't re-go through the same run every time. It may be the same location, but it will be like swapped around, different things will be added, stuff that sometimes it may be even harder. You don't know. And also on top of that, with the great combat, there's a beautiful, fluid, hand-drawn art style and a fantastic, great soundtrack, by the way. Absolum has some of the most fun and forward-thinking side-scrolling combat that I've played in a while. I haven't played too many just beat 'em ups yet. I've played Streets of Rage. I haven't tried the new one yet. I played the newer Double Dragon game. Can't remember exactly which variation, but I know it came out like even a year or two ago. And it's just like, I love how beat 'em ups have just evolved over the years from just your basic like punching and kicking to like now there's just full-blown combos just as a side scroller. So I feel like that's where Absolum really shines, is just the combat. And then the lore on top of that as well helps you get along, and it has a great starting point, great tutorial, and it really helps with the world building as well as you continue to defeat the fallen king who has betrayed his own city. All right, so we're halfway through the showcase, and I have to pause and ask, which of these games are you already most so hyped for? Are you ready to dive into the cozy, story-driven world of Nezori, or are you assembling your boys to take on any of the gods and gods breakers, or maybe you're just here for that nostalgic feeling and that goblin juggling combat of Absolum? But let me know your top pick in the comments down below. I'm genuinely curious to see which of these is hitting the mark. If you already have any demos you have already played out, still let me know in the comment section below. I want to talk to you guys about it. And hey, if you're enjoying the deep dive into the best, into some of the indie RPG demos of the year, you want more curated lists just like this one, do me a big favor, hit that like button and subscribe. It tells the great, powerful YouTube algorithm gods that, hey, Chaos DTV is doing something right. And hey, it will make sure you won't miss volume 2 of my showcase, because trust me, I have a whole new batch of games that I want to cover, and there's a couple other games I want to just find those hidden gems for you. But without all the yapping, let's get back right into the video. Now, let's turn our heads over and look at a new Chinese indie game. Now, what's crazy is the Chinese gaming market is going absolutely wild. We have Blood Message coming out, we have Phantom Blade Zero coming out, we had Wu Chang Fallen Feathers, we have Black Myth Wukong, and now Chinese developers are trying their hands at trying to be the next big thing. Now, this indie game, it started swinging for the fences, looking to follow into the footsteps of the highly anticipated titles like Phantom Blade Zero, with this heavy focus on stylish, high-speed martial arts combat. Not thoroughly like wuxia based, but close enough. This is Liuyin's World. Right off the bat, this game gets major props for its striking world design. The Chinese fantasy cyberpunk setting provides incredible backdrops, blending this ancient architecture with like futuristic technology. And not to mention, all of the enemies, they all look like the world, essentially. These futuristic samurai designs that really stand out and just immediately sell you on the game's unique aesthetic. And it's a visual statement. Now, I will say this, that is exactly how I even decided to even download this game. I was scrolling through Steam, I saw the way the game looked, and I'm just like, damn, I really want to play that. That seems very interesting. Now, this demo, once I hopped into the demo, there's a couple of things I've noticed. I'm like, this demo is still rough around the edges, and it's important to be upfront about that. The audio design, for instance, needs a lot of work. That audio design pissed me off. Sound effects for the sword slashes and the impacts often don't match the on-screen action, which can really pull you out of the experience and the immersion. The lack of voice acting also makes some of the more dramatic cutscenes feel a bit flat and unfinished. Now, yes, voice acting does not need to be in every game, but it's just like, it's kind of weird when you're in a cutscene and things are happening and no one's speaking, right? That's the only thing I feel like it's a little bit off, and it's trying to do more show than tell, but it just really would feel like some form of voicing or something of that nature. The combat, while being flashy and cool in concept, also feels very unpolished. The animations can be stiff, the feedback from hitting an enemy isn't quite there yet, but perhaps, honestly, the biggest hurdle, at least for English-speaking players like myself, it is the current state of the translation. There is some form of a way when you're depleting your stamina. My game didn't say stamina, it had dropped the S, it just said tamina. But even when you're when you set the language to English, your crucial tooltips, your skill descriptions, some parts of the UI remain in Chinese, making it very difficult to understand the deeper mechanics. Now, I know I talked a lot negative. I talked a good and negative about this game. My overall vibe and opinion of Liuyin's World, this game has a mountain of potential. And especially with the move that Chinese games are making in the gaming industry, this game has potential. Yes, it is made by an indie developer, but if they can just sit there and hone in, keep in mind, games like Lost Soul aside, started with one solo dude who made a random trailer and got picked up by Sony and is now bringing this game to life, and we get to check it out within not even a couple of weeks from now. So there is room to grow just from this demo. This is why I'm bringing it to the attention. I want this game to succeed because I genuinely enjoy the overall gameplay design, the gameplay loop. It had that blend of like Ninja Gaiden in some ways and some form of like Souls-like. It really tried to hit home that action, that true action base. But I just feel like with some of the stuff just needs to be reworked, or making just certain cutscenes and just not feel awkward and there's long pauses and silence between it. But that is just my opinion on the matter. The visual identity and core concept are absolutely fantastic, but I feel like the game is just lacking in the combat, the audio, and especially the translation will need a lot of dedicated polishing before the full release to truly let that potential shine through. Like I said, I like this game. I want to see it succeed, so I will wish that it got a lot more attention in those areas and just trying to make it more fluid. Indie games are becoming such a high rise that is beating AAA. So I feel like if we I can feel the soul, I can feel the heart, I can feel it behind this game. I just want it to succeed day one. The gaming industry is very finicky right now, especially with players, and I don't want this game to fail on the day of release. If you are a big fan of horror games like Parasite Eve, Codeka, Shadow Hearts, or Silent Hill, or maybe Resident Evil 2, then I got a game for you that fits both that survival horror with also RPG, just like Parasite Eve. Now, when you are looking at the game that is on screen and you get this immediate Resident Evil 2 vibes, then hey, we're looking at Ella, a sister who is searching for a missing brother. Then you are not alone, because Wicked Seed immediately, unashamedly channels this classic late 90s survival horror, and is fantastic. Our main character even looks like a modern day Claire Redfield, right down to the iconic red jacket and blue jeans. This game pays homage to the golden age of the Resident Evil series in all the best ways. And like, one thing when I was looking at her, like, she doesn't give me Resident Evil 2 Claire, she gives me like Revelations 2 Claire when she started wearing that red jacket and blue jeans. So I'm like, I can see where the similarities are coming from. And like I said, if you grew up in the the golden age of the Resident Evil series in all the best ways, between the very first Resident Evil, 2, Code Veronica, 3, even 4, still best-selling Resident Evil out there, other than with as long as 5, but mainly just the survival horror aspect, then hey, this game will be right up the alley for you. It's to the T of Resident Evil, man. You go right down to having like the notes scattered, files scattered around the road to not only enhance the story, just like Resident Evil does, and like other games very like it, where you get to understand a little bit more what's going on thanks to the notes left around the world, but also each note you find gains you XP upon reading them. And also, as with it being a demo and like I said, another indie team, the voice acting is serviceable and gets the job done, but it's the gameplay mechanics that really shine here and show a ton of innovation. One of the first key mechanics you learn involves your flashlight. Some enemies in this world are terrified by it and will recoil, while others become enraged and more aggressive, creating this fascinating tactical decisions in the heat of the moment. But it's not something that's really super crazy that you need to keep in mind about. Honestly, the part you really will like the most is the combat system. Now, when you play this game, you will instantly feel very familiar to the classic RPG Parasite Eve, Square Enix's very first horror game they've done, and is still by far a special series that I hold dear to my heart. You can move freely around the battlefield in real time to dodge attacks and position yourself, but your attacks uses an action bar. You can even counter enemies by striking them right as they swing, which rewards precise timing. You can deal extra damage when you are hitting enemies from behind. You can flank them on their left and their right, and you can even do like takedowns if they're dealt enough damage when they're staggered. So it has a lot of RPG elements just within the combat. And also, one cool thing is, like, as you explore, you'll solve like small environmental puzzles, find alternate costumes as well to customize your look, and upgrade your weapons and armor with scraps that you find by carefully searching every corner of the map. And when you find rest areas as well, this is where it kind of gets that bonfire-esque type situations. You can restore your health at the cost of having all the world's enemies respawn. The demo's major plot point, though, has you discovering your brother has already abandoned his camp, setting up a compelling mystery for the full game. And that gives me the very similar thing to when Claire went to Raccoon's police department just to find out that Chris Redfield is not even in Raccoon City, he's somewhere else. And this begins her search for her brother, leading into one of my favorite Resident Evil games, Code Veronica X. So when I'm looking at this game's plot points for Wicked Seed, and I'm seeing, like, I can see where the developers really paid homage to, but they definitely try to do it in their own way. I love the overall setup, dealing with the camp and dealing with the different enemies. They all have like different attacks, and like, it definitely feels like Parasite Eve. Wicked Seed is just that brilliant fusion of old school horror and just tactical RPG combat. Now, I do have one more side-scrolling action RPG roguelike on this list, but this one is all about speed, impact, and incredibly deep build crafting. This is Starfire, and from your very first punch, you can feel the weight of every single attack that you make. The game has fantastic feedback. As you clear arenas filled with the alien swarms and cybernetic monstrosities, you get to choose your rewards, which feeds directly into the game's incredibly deep and rewarding customization system. Now, the main mechanic that defines your build is the core system. As you play, you will find and equip various insectoid cores that grant you powerful passive bonuses, like massively increased attack speed, higher critical damage multiplier, having different elements happening around you, like a ring of fire around you, or as you deal attacks, random like lightning comes out and deals a little bit of extra damage. This overall is just one layer of your build. Then you have your equipment, which just raises your base stats like your health and your attack power, creating a great strategic choice between your runs. Do you go more treasure hunting runs to gain better base equipment, or do you start going on more core plunder runs to just get those game-changing cores that can basically make life or death? Honestly, I went a lot more for the core plundering to be able to fully max out my affinities, which brings me to my next point. What's also really cool is that each core you find has some form of an elemental affinity, like fire, ice, or thunder. If you collect those and install multiple cores of the same element, you gain massive synergistic bonuses, with a full set of 6 granting you the huge build defining power spikes. Between these runs, you can head back to your base to spend gold at a shop, or permanently just improve your talents in a skill tree, like increasing your max HP or even unlocking more core sockets for even deeper customization. All of this high octane action is set to a fantastic driving soundtrack that perfectly fits the game's intense and chaotic nature. Finally, let's wrap things up with the game that is without a doubt a handcrafted love letter to pixel art enthusiasts and fans of classic 16-bit adventure RPGs. So this was another random demo that I found, and I'm glad I found it because now I'm a little bit more interested in the developer's work. This is Saqers Paradox, a gorgeous 2.5D action adventure that is openly inspired by the clever co-op puzzles of The Legend of Zelda, of any of like 1 and 2, Four Swords Adventure, and just the stunning HD 2D pixel art style pioneered by Octopath Traveler. From the moment you hit the main menu, the soundtrack grabs you and immediately sounded like it was pulled from one of the JRPGs from the 90s, the 80s, and it's just like, man, it's very nostalgic. We jump right into the combat that feels responsive and is satisfying like old school Zelda. The pixel graphics are absolutely top tier. One thing about HD 2D remakes is that I'm really loving the new engine that they're using, and this engine is really pushing that the best that it can. This isn't just nostalgia bait because you can feel the soul that the Soul developer has poured into this project. Every animation is fluid and every environment is just packed with detail. The game even includes a cool feature that lets you change the camera focus on the fly, allowing you to pull back for a wider, more tactical view or zoom in for a more cinematic feel. The demo itself is a free promo designed to give you a sneak peek at the game's core mechanics and tone, and it succeeds brilliantly. The NPC dialogue is also packed with great self-aware humor, and the entire experience feels incredibly polished and unbelievably promising, especially for a one-person project. And honestly, I recommend this to at least check it out for any of classic adventure RPG fans out there. Saqers Paradox is an absolute must play. I can't wait for a full official demo because, like I said, this was just a promo. All you were supposed to do is just kill all the enemies in the little castle and then you were good to go. But overall, this game, I want to see a lot more from this game. I would definitely keep Saqers Paradox's dev team in mind as the time goes on, because I would love to check out a full version of this, or at least a longer demo. This game was absolutely amazing. So there you have it, folks. 8 of the most exciting, innovative indie RPGs demos that I could find in 2025 up so far. From the cozy visual novel world of Nezori to the hard-hitting nostalgic combat of Absolum, and the tactical survival horror of Wicked Seed to the stunning pixel art adventure of Saqers Paradox. The sheer creativity and passion posting through the indie scene right now is just staggering. These developers, often in small teams or even completely alone, are pouring their hearts and souls into these projects, making the kinds of unique, focused experience that you just cannot find anywhere else. I've covered the co-op roguelikes, story-rich adventures, your classic beat-em-ups, and modern survival horror. Hopefully, after seeing these deep dives, you found at least one or two new games to get genuinely hyped about, and your Steam's wish list is looking a little bit more fuller and a lot more interesting than it was before. Now, let me throw this question back at you, right? After seeing all 8, which of these demos would you at least attempt to try first? And just as importantly, are there any incredible demos that I might have missed that you think like, hey, Chaos, you need to put this on your radar right now? And honestly, if you let me know in the comment section below, if y'all can find any demos on the Steam's wishlist that y'all feel like that it deserves to just be put in this showcase, then I will jot it down in the comments. Let me know everything in the comments below. I read every single one, and your recommendations are my best source for finding the games that might just be ended up in our next showcase, and maybe even a full-blown video, and maybe I can even work with the devs, see if we can get something popping, you know? Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. If you enjoyed today's episode, please consider liking, subscribing for more showcases, more reviews, and anything dealing with RPGs, action games out there. I got so many more games to cover. Make sure to hit the notification bell so you don't miss the next Ultimate Indie RPG Showcase Volume 2 and any other reviews or deep dive documentaries that I do. Until next time, Outcast, I need you guys to stay safe out there. And it's been your host, Chaos DTV, signing out. Peace.